The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of the monitor. An old man sat by the window, his hands trembling as he held a small notebook with worn-out pages. Every day, he opened it and read the same lines written decades ago: "I'll always wait for you, no matter how long it takes." It was a promise his late wife had left him when they were young and poor, forced apart by circumstances. They had eventually found each other again and shared 50 beautiful years together. But now she was gone, and the silence of her absence pressed heavily on him. One afternoon, as he sat with the notebook open on his lap, a little girl from the children's ward wandered into his room. She looked frail but had a bright smile. "Why are you sad, Grandpa?" she asked. He forced a small smile. "I'm just missing someone I loved very much." The girl climbed onto the chair beside him. "My mom says people we love never really leave. They live in here." She gently placed her tiny hand over his heart. For the first time in months, his eyes filled with tears that weren't only from grief, but from gratitude. He realized his wife wasn't gone. She lived in the laughter they once shared, in the warmth of their home, and now, in the innocent words of a child who reminded him that love never truly ends. That night, he closed his eyes with peace, whispering, "I'm still waiting, my love, but now, I'm smiling while I do." The old man sat by the window, watching as the late afternoon sun painted the sky in shades of gold and orange. Its warmth touched his face, but it couldn't chase away the chill that seemed to live inside his chest. His hands, lined with years of labor and love, trembled as he clutched a small notebook that looked as old as the memories it carried. The corners of the pages were frayed, and the ink had faded, yet every word inside was engraved in his heart. He opened it carefully, as if it were something fragile, and his eyes landed on the line he had read 1,000 times before: "I'll always wait for you, no matter how long it takes." His lips quivered, forming the words silently, and for a moment, he could almost hear her voice saying them. It was her handwriting, soft and graceful, just like her. Every letter was a piece of her that time had failed to erase. He traced the words with his fingertip, as though touching them might bring her closer. Around him, the hospital room was filled with silence, broken only by the faint hum of machines, yet within him, there was a storm of memories, her laughter echoing in their small kitchen, the way she brushed her hair before bed, the way her hand fit perfectly into his. Each time he read that sentence, it hurt, but it also healed. It reminded him of the girl who had once promised forever, and the woman who had kept that promise until her very last breath. Now, he waited too, though he didn't know how much longer his own heart could carry the weight of waiting. One afternoon, as he sat lost in thought with the notebook open on his lap, the quiet was interrupted by the sound of small, hesitant footsteps. He lifted his gaze and saw a little girl standing at the doorway, her hospital gown slightly too big for her tiny frame, her hair thin from treatment but her eyes glowing with a brightness that belonged to life itself. She looked curious, as though she had stumbled upon a secret place, and for a moment, he thought she might turn and leave. But instead, she padded softly into the room, her bare feet making no sound on the cold floor. She stopped beside his chair and tilted her head. "Why are you sad, Grandpa?" she asked, her voice light, carrying an innocence that cut through the heaviness in his chest. He blinked at her, caught off guard, then forced a smile that barely reached his tired eyes. "I'm just missing someone I loved very much," he whispered, his voice rough with the weight of years. The girl didn't frown or turn away as he expected. Instead, she climbed onto the chair beside him with the effort of someone determined, her small body shifting until she sat comfortably next to him. She glanced at the notebook in his lap, then at his face, as if she could see the sorrow he tried to hide. "My mom says," she began softly, pressing her tiny hand against her chest, "people we love never really leave. They live in here." Then, without hesitation, she reached out and placed her warm little palm gently over his heart. The old man's breath caught. For the first time in months, he felt something other than loneliness. He felt the warmth of kindness, unexpected and pure. His eyes grew wet, not only with grief but with gratitude, because in that moment, through the words of a child he had never met before, he was reminded that love doesn't vanish. It lingers, alive in memory, alive in the hearts it once touched. That night, the old man found himself lying in the narrow hospital bed, the little notebook resting on the table beside him. He had read it again before closing his eyes, but the words felt different now. The ache in his heart was still there, yet it no longer pressed as heavily against him. He could still feel the warmth of the girl's small hand lingering on his chest, like a spark that refused to fade. For the first time in so long, he didn't feel completely alone. As he drifted between wakefulness and sleep, memories came, not sharp and painful as they usually did, but soft, like a gentle tide. He saw his wife's face, younger and full of laughter, standing in their first home, sunlight spilling across her hair. He saw her sitting at the kitchen table, scribbling little notes for him to find in his jacket pocket before work. He heard her humming the lullabies she used to sing when the world felt too heavy. Each image wrapped around him like a blanket, soothing instead of breaking him. He whispered into the silence, his voice trembling but filled with a fragile peace, "I'm still waiting, my love, but now, I'm smiling while I do." His eyes grew heavy, and a faint smile curved his lips. He imagined her waiting just beyond the golden horizon of sleep, her hand outstretched as though she had been standing there all along. And though the machines still hummed quietly in the room, though the night outside deepened, the old man's heart felt lighter than it had in years, because he finally understood that love never truly left. It simply changed its form, finding new ways to stay alive in those who remember. Love does not end with goodbye, it lingers in every heartbeat, waiting patiently until souls meet again.